I'm on the app every morning just to sort of, I think it's a sort of a pastime now. It's like a hobby. You go onto it and it's you get sort of sidetracked because you go onto one area to look at a property and then you sort of get sidetracked by looking at the same property in a different area. Well, that's what I do. By the time you've finished, you're in a completely different area, in a completely different house.
I like to have a couple of browsers open with different houses in and like flip between them. You know, if I see something I like, I imagine what I do to it to make it my own. It's kind of a mishmash of me being nosy and dreaming.
I know so many people who say, yeah, I'm addicted to Rightmove, something that that you know about, but people don't sort of talk about it.
People always reveal it like some kind of dirty secret. They're like, oh, I'm one of those people, like I shouldn't, but I do spend a lot of time on Rightmove. I do spend a lot of time checking other properties. It's really interesting that so many people view it as a weird thing that they do when it is something that is phenomenally popular. We think of it as like the UK's national hobby that no one talks about. Like everyone, like there's like football and music and comedy or whatever, but like browsing homes on the internet is this really popular thing that no one ever talks about. And it's kind of amazing. And I'm not quite sure why that is. Like some people have revealed that they feel a little bit guilty about cheating on their house. And like, oh, I've just moved into a place and I love it. We'll still keep an eye on the property market. So it's really amazing. And I haven't got to the bottom of exactly why it's this like really quiet hush hush thing.
Yeah, sometimes I just go through places or somebody says that they've been somewhere and I'm like, oh, what's that like? And I might go onto Rightmove and look at the houses there, especially if it's like a nice location too.
And then inevitably it just becomes the rabbit hole of Rightmove of here's a random town I've never heard of before. What does property look like there? So I think, it's a great escapism to go and look at these things. Do you want the beautiful house? Do you want to live in the middle of nowhere away from people, which is still the thing that I kind of like the idea of. But my wife constantly questions me about this. Like, why do you keep showing me houses we're never going to buy?
We're always aspiring to sort of find somewhere that nobody else has. It's just that you're never satisfied in life, are you? I think that's the human sort of condition. People are never satisfied 100%. I think even if you bought a plot of land and built your ideal dream home, you'd still be thinking, oh, could I have done better? Should I have gone in a different place?
June, the sun rises at 4:30 in the morning over there. But in winter, the sun rises at 8 a.m. there. And in the winter, the sun's coming low in the sky, just over the top of these trees. And it's setting about 4 o'clock over there. Whereas in the summer, the sun's rising at 4:30. It's going high in the sky, and the sun sets right over there in the evening on the summer. Welcome to Crossway. So we built this house in 2008, before we had children. Essentially, what we wanted to do was have a house that kind of was efficient, used local materials and explored some of these kind of ideas and sustainability agendas that were kind of becoming increasingly important to us. I stumbled upon this technique of designing, it was a builder actually introduced me to it. It was an idea of gluing tiles together, clay tiles together with plaster of Paris in thin air without any formwork. So we ended up having to employ Cambridge University as engineering department to test whether it was physically possible to build an arch this size using this technique. Anyway, the professors, the clever people at Cambridge said, yes, you can. And from that moment on, I was hooked. We had to build it. But this space here, we've got full height glazing from east through to south, over to west. And when we're in this part of the lounge, you kind of feel very connected to the landscape. And we do love that. So these tiles are made by, they were dug up from clay 4 miles away from the site. And some of the tiles here, you can see fingerprints on them. So and there's a guy called Matt that I used to play badminton with. So he would have made these tiles. So that would be Matt's fingerprints.
Since you built this house and lived in it, when was the last time you looked on Rightmove or a similar app?
I have to say, to be honest, it's many years since I've looked on a Rightmove app. I haven't really got any need to at the moment.
When I was younger, I sort of liked to plan out my future home in my head and like the floor plans and stuff too, actually. Even when I was like 10, I was like planning what my future house was going to be like. I think I am somebody who thinks about the future a lot, and I have been criticised for that because sometimes I think I think about the future too much rather than living in the present. Quite a lot of my friends seem to live in the moment. I kind of don't understand that because I just don't understand why they wouldn't think about the future. But then again, sometimes I sort of wish I could live in the moment a bit more. I like to think about the future and plan things so I know exactly what I'm going to do. Sometimes I wonder if I should just lighten up a bit. I know my mum says she's like into mindfulness and yoga and stuff, and she always says, oh, you got to like live in the present and not worry about the future a lot.
I do believe that meditation helps you live in the moment, and part of that is because a natural byproduct of meditation is focus or concentration and a calmer mind. With a calmer mind, because you're not being reactive, the result is that you're able to observe. You see more, you notice more. And if that's not living in the now, I'm not quite sure what is. In short, you enjoy where you are in the moment and what you have to offer. I think that's what meditation does.
Do you ever go on Rightmove for fun?
No, I haven't.
First of all, it's fantasy, isn't it? And fantasy is healthy, helpful, creative. It is, what if I lived in a parallel universe? What if I changed my life? You'd think it might be unpleasant, wouldn't you? That it would create envy. That you'd be looking at all these fantastic houses that you might never own yourself. And yet it doesn't. That's what people go on doing it. So they're not doing this out of masochism. They're doing it because it's enjoyable. So you're enjoying thinking about the possibilities. You're enjoying thinking about yourself in a different space, in a different life. And you can see all of these possibilities for yourself, none of which you're going to take up. But it gives you a window looking out to something else. That's when you use fantasy. That's when you fantasize. It's when you dream, consciously dream. If you're not satisfied with things, but it can also just be an add-on. You don't necessarily want that at all, but it adds a dimension. You're stretching reality, and that's where you're talking about something liminal, that you've got somewhere in the back of your mind you've got reality, but then every now and again you just play with it a bit more and stretch it a bit further. It's sort of playing, isn't it?
I suppose I just wanted to find like the ideal property and stuff. So I don't know, I'd sort of like use lots of filters and stuff and go through things lots. To be honest, I don't really know why I'm doing this. Now I'm explaining it to you on the phone, it kind of sounds dumb. It sounds kind of dumb and a waste of time.
I don't know if I'd ever stop. I think, obviously, if I was ever in a position to buy somewhere, I think I'd probably still look around because, yeah, like I say, it's not really necessarily connected to the buying of houses for me.
I realise I'm wasting a colossal amount of time. I tell my daughter off because she spends so long on social media and saying, you should just get a life. And I'm doing exactly the same in a different way. But once I'm on there, yes, I do get carried away. So, and you still can't stop yourself carrying on looking. So it is an addiction, isn't it? Definitely.
But ultimately, it's a bit like anything that you do. You kind of have to do something with it in the end. And you kind of have to make a decision around it. Is it worth carrying on? It's a bit like the Instagrams and Twitters of this world. I kind of realised it was a bit of a zero-sum game. You're at that point where it's like, what am I getting out of this? There is no winner here. And I guess, Rightmove as a kind of proxy for social media will wind up being that kind of, okay, what am I doing here? If I don't ultimately move, why am I continuing to do this?
Oh, it's absolutely a strange thing to do. It's totally weird, but that's okay, because weird is okay. Sometimes weird is good. I like to think that I'm the good kind of weird. So, but yeah, I mean, it's just, so what? Who cares what anyone else thinks? Go enjoy looking at houses.